Hello, this is OC Skywatch. It is the 20th of December 2015. It's currently 7:20 p.m. and going to be doing an update. This is the water vapor map for December 15th, 20 to 23:30 Zulu, and well, what we have here in the Pacific is nothing new, just a bunch of aerosols being laid into the jet stream, and off our coast we have some dry air being pressed down. This area right here is going to turn into a rather big low pressure system, but as usual it's going to be smashed. And yeah, the aerosols are going to help keep it suppressed and prevent anything else from forming over here, which is no good. There's actually quite a bit of dry air down towards the latitude of Hawaii. It's a very, very strange area. We have a little flow starting to go into Mexico here, but of course it's laced with aerosols. Okay. This is a couple hours later, December 16th, 7 to 10:30 Zulu, and this thing right up in the Gulf of Alaska is starting to curl up more. There's aerosols continuing to be laying down in this jet stream flow, which is going to keep this front suppressed. Remember, they want to keep the drought going for California and western states. Although we did see quite a bit of rain in the northwest, but down here is just nothing really too good. Oh hey, I even see dry air being pressed down off the coast of Northern California. Typical. This area of dry air down to the south seems to have expanded quite a bit. Not a surprise. And it was very strange as, well, you see this water vapor disappearing into an abyss for no good natural reason. And of course, on top of California, Central California, they're spraying a bunch of aerosols. Remember, they don't want it raining here much. We're actually going to get a storm system coming in here in a few days. In a few days relative to the current time in this map, which was actually last night, but it was majorly suppressed. We only got like a quarter of an inch at best at this location. Alright. Very interesting little pocket of dry air in this low pressure thing starting to form up. Okay, this is December 16th, 19:30 to 23 Zulu, and these clouds have formed into a low pressure system. Of course, I see some aerosols being laid into this thing. That's just going to weaken it. They didn't want this thing to form, I don't think, because that would disrupt their operations for California and the West Coast. See these little lines, wispy stuff? Yeah, those are the aerosols. The jet stream right here, there still is a lot of spraying into it. You see a lot of dry air appearing out of nowhere. That's typical. I didn't actually notice this when I took this map. There's actually like a little outflow from this thing. It's like a little line. Don't know how well you could see it, but definitely see it here. Yeah, right there. I just paused it so you can see it. Very interesting. And it's just moving opposite to this general jet stream flow. Okay, this is visible here and nothing too much to show. We know that there's a rather decent sized low pressure spinning up in the Gulf of Alaska, and there's aerosols being laid into this jet stream. Interesting features right in this high pressure. Mysterious clouds with hard boundaries and whatnot. Nothing too special, but off the coast of Southern California and Baja, what we see here is very, very interesting opening here. It's not going anywhere. Something must be disrupting the flow. You also notice the clearness near California. That's no good. Up to the north, just your typical California drought aerosols being lain. In Northern California and Sierras, it seems like there's natural clouds, but on top of the natural clouds there are aerosols that's going to create that capping inversion and prevent any thunderstorms from occurring. Okay, this is December 17th, 9 to 12:30 Zulu, and this low pressure looks to be rather big. You'll see in the next few animations that this thing pretty much falls apart. Again, you see these aerosols being laid into the inflow. That's just going to help weaken it. We see this happen almost every time with these systems out in the Gulf of Alaska. They're not ever given a chance to live beyond a few days. And down to the south, not much has changed. You have the dry air and then the aerosols. This thing's actually going to go and dip down. That's going to bring us a little bit of rain. There is a mysterious drying here though. And the aerosols, of course. And both factors are going to suppress the rain. None of this stuff is natural. This is long wave. Same stuff, just a different view. Looks a little bit icky towards the center of this low. Very mysterious. Okay, let's go back a second. Yeah, I think this thing's actually starting to fall apart now. Okay, down here, not too much. Just your typical aerosol cloud combination in California. Okay, this is December 17th going into the 18th, 21:30 to 1 Zulu, and yeah, this low pressure up in the Gulf of Alaska is definitely falling apart now. It's just looking all disorganized, and the momentum seems to be slowing down a bit. There's still some, but it just looks very, very strange, like it's been beaten quite a bit. Interesting area, drawing it here. Yeah, they definitely are attacking this from multiple angles. Both the ionospheric heaters and chemtrails are working at this thing. Yeah, you see these random features up on the north side of the core. Yeah, those are aerosols. You know aerosols by their features. They appear out of nowhere and they're wispy. Okay, down to the south. This thing's starting to dip more towards the south, and there's dry air being pressed down right here and right over here. And there's also dry air out to the east. It's going to make this thing go at their intended target, which is California. Yeah, there's heavy, heavy chemtrails being laid all in this flow. There's some precipitation in here, but it's highly suppressed. Okay, let's look at these lines for a second. Appear out of nowhere. Classic. It kind of seems like the area of drying is starting to ease out near Hawaii. A lot of moisture's starting to come up from the south. Of course, it's being laced with a bunch of aerosols because they want to keep the precipitation suppressed. They can't have like heavy thunderstorms pummeling our state. And they also want to keep this high pressure going. There's many, many factors, I'm telling you. Right here, there's a very, very mysterious dry low. That's just a little bit southwest of the Aleutian Islands. That ain't gonna do much. And yeah, the aerosols are not helping. Here's the visible view, same time. Yeah, you definitely see that this low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska is being suppressed. See the aerosols being laid, and then a bit of weird rotation here. Just looks like a mess. And down to the south, we have this front being hammered with aerosols. That's going to reduce precipitation. Capping inversion is going to prevent the thunderstorms, whatnot, from forming. It's a very mysterious area here. Yeah, openings in the clouds and then clockwise rotation. I always see these formations though, so it's nothing new. And over here, okay, there's these little line things that show up. They're pretty uniform. Yeah, it definitely could be a sign of frequency stuff. I know they're creating high pressure around the area because if you look, there's general clockwise and see these clouds right here disappearing for no reason. It's very, very bizarre. And there's also like a straight line right here. It's very consistent. It's just, it's not moving. Okay. Okay, this is December 18th, 6 to 9:30 Zulu. This low pressure looks even more worse off, falling apart. Very minimal rotations happening, and still see the drying in this area, which is very, very strange. Looks to be a little bit of clockwise in here. Very minor, but yeah, it's there. And also you see the clouds disappearing. Okay, down to the south, there seems to be moisture regenerating in this general area. It's not going to help with precipitation totals too much because they're just going to spray the crap out of it. You'll see that in just a second. Again, heavy, heavy trails being laid into this thing. And dry air is being pressed down right here. That's going to help bring this thing down. This stuff is starting to move off to the east. They have high pressure over California at the moment. Everything's pretty much set up now for their operation. There's another storm up in the Bering Sea, but it's not going to do too much at all. It's going to be torn apart. This moisture field over here is being disrupted by the dry air. There's many aspects to these programs. I can't simply cover everything. And over here, towards this high, a lot of aerosols being laid in the vicinity. That's just going to prevent anything from forming here. This low pressure over here that was trying to form is pretty much done for. There's just nothing left of it. But yeah, that's just a crazy amount of aerosols. And you know they're aerosols because they're wispy and some stuff actually appears out of nowhere, like around the Hawaiian Islands. Yeah, that's going to keep the rainfall at bay and help promote high pressure and help the ionospheric heaters. There's many, many things these aerosols do, none of which is good. Okay, this is a little over 12 hours later, December 18th, 20 to 23:30 Zulu, and you can see that pretty much notch thing has formed. This up here is pretty much what's left of that rather decent low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska. It's nothing more than just a weak remnant that's going to form the top of this thing. Yeah, down here towards this front, Aerosols are continuing to be laying into it, of course. And then down in Southern California, you know that moisture plume I was telling you that was starting to generate? They're spraying the crap out of it. Yeah, the aerosol is going to create that capping inversion effect and dry out the atmosphere, so no precipitation is going to fall. They don't want it to fall too much on California. They just want to keep drought going. This is what they do when there's a lot of moisture. See all the cross hatches and whatnot just appearing. Slow this down. That's nasty. I'm telling you, this thing in combination with this thing, they could have merged together and we could have seen a good 3 to 4 inches out of this. We're being screwed on many fronts. And over here, just a little bit northeast of Hawaii, there's very, very heavy aerosols being laid in here. And there's a lot of dry air as well. So all along here, the system up in the Bering Sea isn't looking so well. It looks more like an oval now. And you see a bunch of streaks appearing in it. Very blatant. So yeah, that's another potential natural weather maker being destroyed. We need as much rain as we can get here. We've been in 4 years of extreme drought, 8 years of drought total. It's not 4 years like everyone's preaching on about in the mainstream. It's much worse than that. Precipitation started being hampered severely in around 2008. Again, there's aerosols being laid into this flow, and that's going to prevent anything from forming up in here, disrupting their whole operation. Of course, at this point, any disruption would be good because they're pretty much screwing us out of rainfall. They have been for years. Okay, this is the visible satellite for the same time, and not a whole lot to show, just a broken up system. What used to be a massive low pressure is now a giant mess. There even appears to be little rings showing up off the coast of Oregon and northern California. That's just going to reduce the amount of precipitation. There's clockwise flow in there, and that's high pressure. Over here, aerosols are being laid into this thing as usual. Again, we see a very, very strange clear area. That's exactly where they're pressing down dry air. See these disappearing clouds right over towards the west a bit. And then they spray over it, of course. Over California, Northern California, you could definitely see the aerosols in this whole flow. It's on top of the cloud layer. That's just going to suppress precipitation. Down to the south, the aerosols aren't as apparent, but you see little tiny things pop out of nowhere. They're definitely photoshopping over here, I think. This is the 850 millibar relative humidity for December 19th, 0 Zulu, and there's a little bit of moisture over Southern California, but not much. Up in Northern California, there's quite a bit coming in from that front. Of course, that front's suppressed, so it's a little bit less moist than expected. Okay, 700 millibars, 10,000 feet. There's a tongue of dry air just a little bit south of San Francisco. Very, very small. There's a tongue of dry air right here. And in Southern California, there's a little bit of humidity, but it's generally less than 40%, so that isn't much. Okay, 500 millibars. This front, there's quite a bit of moisture, but behind it, there's much dry air. And over Southern California, most of it, very, very low humidity, less than 20%. That's just no good. Yeah, the aerosols do actually reduce the humidity. 300 millibar, 30,000 feet. There's a lot of moisture actually on top of Southern California and more off the coast. So yeah, that explains A lot of the aerosol activity, they just want to keep this moisture at bay, and they don't want it to merge on and create like a super front like we would expect. Seriously, we could have gotten like a good 3 to 4 inches out of the system. Okay, this is getting kind of long, but this is pretty good stuff that I'm about to show you. This is December 19th, 6 to 9:30 Zulu. There's a lot of aerosols that are being lain all throughout this front. It's becoming even more apparent. We're mainly going to focus on California now. Down in Southern California, that big moisture field has moved off. Now it's over the area, so what do? They spray the living crap out of it. Those formations are very, very bizarre. Just have a good look here. It almost looks like a snake to me. I don't know about you, but that really doesn't look like a condensation trail at all. Looks like a deliberate screwing with us. I don't know, that's just very, very strange. Yeah, and that's gonna help suck the moisture out. This is during the nighttime, I think. So why else would they be spraying other than to suck the moisture out? And over here, this thing looks pretty dry. That's very strange, and seems like there's not a whole lot of bubbling going on. Seems like it's drying out. It's being suppressed. And over here we have the major high pressure just west of this activity. Just your typical aerosol, ionospheric heater, fiesta, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of moisture near Hawaii, but it's just being aerosolized. It's not gonna give us much rain. Seriously, this thing could have been like a giant fire hose and brought us a lot of rain. This right here off the coast of British Columbia is pretty much what's left of that low pressure. It's not much at all. And over towards the Aleutian Islands and the Bering Sea, this thing's pretty much gone. See a bit of clockwise rotation over here. This is shortwave for the same time, and it's pretty much the same. There's nothing too special. Here's just a general overview. Strange activity right here and over here, and yeah, nothing's left much up in the Bering Sea. And this is the low remnant clouds right off the coast of British Columbia. The aerosols are actually appearing over Southern California, which is a surprise, but they seem a little bit faded out. Up in Northern California, see quite a bit of spraying, along with natural clouds, combination of both, suppress precipitation. And over here off the coast of Oregon, quite interesting, clouds disappearing here. They're just pretty much cut off at this one point randomly. Okay, this is water vapor for December 19th, 18 to 21:30 Zulu. You notice right near California, this area of low pressure is getting very, very dry towards the center. That's very, very bizarre. I don't know, that just doesn't look right to me. And over here we have a front. They finally allow it to rain in southern part of the state, but up ahead of this front, of course, you're going to see a bunch of junk being laid. We were absolutely getting hammered during that time yesterday. Looked like a nuclear weapon went off. Not even kidding. Poor computer's just taking a beating. This thing's been on for 8 days straight. I'm surprised it hasn't crashed or nothing. And down here, this high pressure is pretty much locked into position. There's a lot of aerosols to keep this thing flat and prevent any storms from forming up in this thing. Because you know, if this thing turned into a giant low pressure system, their whole flow would be disrupted and California would be seeing a ton of rainfall, which they cannot permit. This is like clockwork. Seen this over and over and over again. Down to the south, a lot of dry air is being pressed down. And right here we see a few mysterious areas. They look like little rings. There's actually like 2 of them or so that appear. That's very interesting. No, wait, there's 3. See, one right here, one right here, one right here. And there's like expanding outward. This just doesn't look too natural to me. So I'm just going to point that out. I want to see what a meteorologist says about this. Okay, let's look at the visible satellite now. What we have here is just a typical aerosol mess over California. Nothing too new there. In this spot right here, where there's a lot of dry air, there's funny formations occurring. There's a few waves going out. Not really sure what to say about it besides just a little bit odd. Down to the south towards this Isla Guadalupe Island, there's actually some clouds disappearing. Very interesting. Yeah, over Southern California, a bunch of photoshopped aerosols. We were absolutely getting plastered. They want to suppress as much as they possibly can out of the system without alerting the public. Okay, this is December 19th going into the 20th, 21:30 to 1 Zulu, and this low pressure center is still very dry. It's leaning a little bit more towards clockwise, actually. That's very strange. So yeah, I'm definitely going to put some money down that they're pressing down dry air in this thing. Okay, let's slow this down. Now's pretty much the time when rain started falling in the area. Still not as much as you'd expect by any means, but we'll take what we can get. This is visible, same time. Not a whole lot to show. Just a bunch of aerosols in the jet stream. Another low pressure trying to form up here. You know, this is actually near the winter solstice, so you're going to see the aerosols even more than you normally would. Just look at that. There's definitely wispy canopy over these normal clouds. Just wanted to point that out. And over towards California, the aerosols are showing up even better because the sun is setting. Yeah, that's pretty much a rain band here. Over here is kind of a weird opening towards the north. That's very interesting, actually. Okay, let's go into the relative humidity map. This is December 20th, 0 Zulu, and this is pretty much when the rain started for our area. There's quite a bit of moisture along the coast and up into the northern part of the state, but out over the desert, it's very, very dry. I know aerosols do dry out the moisture, so wouldn't have that out of the question. A little bit of dryness right in this region towards the center of the low. Okay, this is 700 millibars, 10,000 feet. Holy crap. That's very, very dry towards central and northern California coast. Humidity in some areas are less than 10%. I mean, that's extreme. And over here in Southern California, there's complete opposite. But over towards the deserts, again, not a whole lot of moisture. Okay, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. There's a huge amount of dry air over a lot of the state. There's more moisture in Southern California than Northern California, but still not as much as we would expect. There's no thunderstorm activity in here, which is kind of disappointing. Thunderstorms usually give more rainfall. Again, keeping the rain suppressed. Huge tongue of dry air throughout most of the state. Okay, 300 millibars, 30,000 feet. There's a lot of dry air over towards central California. This moisture plume right here has a ton of aerosols in it, so that's why they spray into it. Minimize the rainfall, of course. And right here is a little bit moist, but still at other levels it's pretty dry, which is a little bit interesting. This is December 20th, a few hours later, 1:30 to 5 Zulu, and clouds are disappearing over towards the center of this low. There's not much activity left, other than the front heading into the inland areas now. I swear if they didn't press a lot of dry air down here, these things would have went over, brought us more rain. Even see clockwise rotation. Isn't that neat? There actually seems to be an area of drying right here, now that I think of it. Yeah, they're definitely putting in high pressure now. Over towards the west, it's not looking too much better. There's a lot of aerosols being laid into this jet stream, which is going to prevent low pressure systems from forming, and they're pressing down dry air as well. That's going to help the ionospheric heaters. There's a low pressure trying to develop right in this region, but don't think it's going to do too much. Just look at all that drying starting to appear again. That's no good. There was actually a mainstream media article saying El Nino is running late. Well, of course it's running late when we have a bunch of terrorists shutting down our weather. This is the same time in long wave, and you know what's very interesting? There's actually flow coming right off the Pacific, and as it heads more towards Northern California, it's just being cut off. That's just very weird. Not a whole lot of cloud cover getting into California. Why is that? Unless there's a ionospheric heater attack, don't have any natural explanation for this. Okay, this is water vapor for December 20th, 9:30 to 13 Zulu, and there's a lot of aerosols being laid into this jet stream. Going to prevent this thing from forming into a massive low pressure. We just want to keep the jet stream flat. There's not a whole lot of rain associated with this, actually. And over towards the east, this low pressure that impacted us is now starting to rebuild. It's always the thing starts rebuilding after it heads over the state, which is very, very suspicious. Yes, we see some drying towards Southern California. That's nothing new. They just want to prevent this flow from delivering us some more rainfall and for as long as possible. There's actually a chance of rain tomorrow towards the evening hours, but I don't see it doing much. They're just showing showers of light rain for the evening of the 21st, and for the 22nd, it's not going to be a major precipitation event, I don't think. And this dryer just keeps expanding out in the Pacific. There's another low trying to form in the Gulf of Alaska, but it's just being suppressed. Just see a bunch of junk being pushed into it. And over here it looks a little bit more towards clockwise. Yeah, they're definitely attacking this thing, like they do with almost everything in this region. Cannot have a natural flow, I guess. See a lot of aerosols down towards the south. And that's going to just give Mexico some drought, which is no good. This area looks very strange, just like a hard boundary appearing out of nowhere. Could be like a downburst of dry air causing that. Yeah, definitely see stuff disappearing over towards Puerto Vallarta area. That very well could be a downburst of dry air. More of these features over here. Yeah, they're definitely trying to prevent something from forming. Okay, let's look at the barometric pressure briefly. Okay, this is for Santa Ana, California. What we have here is, okay, spike up, spike down, spike up, spike down. And yeah, December 20th, 0 Zulu is pretty much when the rain started entering the region. And then within a couple of hours, we have 5 millibar spike in pressure. That's pretty big. That's pretty much when things started getting drier. So yeah, that's probably the result of the downburst. Okay, this is for down in California, towards LA. We have pretty much the same effect. The low point in this area is December 20th, 1 Zulu. That's when we started getting the rain, and then within a couple of hours it spikes by quite a few millibars, which is a bit interesting. Sure, you would expect like a little bit of a spike, but not this massive though. And it would be more gradual, I think. I don't know. Okay, let's look at the sea surface pressure analysis. Yeah, we'll start at December 19th, 12 Zulu, when this thing starts coming down. There's not a whole lot of weird activity yet, but in a few hours we start seeing like a little high pressure ridge start appearing. Over here is low, over here appears to be high. It's very, very interesting having low pressure next to high pressure. But of course, with this whole manufactured system, we would expect this to happen. There's also a huge spike up towards Oregon. Looks to be high pressure. Yeah, they're definitely cutting off the jet stream there, from what I see. Okay, 6 hours later, there's pretty much a blockage in the jet stream. Rain starts in Southern California, but there's high and low pressure all mixed in this mess. Okay, 6 hours later after that, they start letting this thing go in, but again, this thing's very heavily aerosolized, so it's not going to do too much. There are actually some systems up towards Alaska, but don't see us getting some weather from that because there's a huge, massive amount of high pressure out in the Pacific. I hope I'm wrong, but it just kind of looks that way. Okay, this is 500 millibar, 18,000 feet. Let's actually start at December 19th, 12 Zulu. Okay, we see low pressure coming into the area. Nothing too weird. And then, yeah, it starts dropping down. There's nothing really too weird in this view other than just a little bit of waviness. There's still a blockage right here. See some high pressure right here. There's high pressure over here as well, which, yeah, that makes sense on how they were able to carry out their operations. Okay, this is 300 millibars, December 19th, 12 Zulu. Okay, we have massive amount of high pressure out in the Pacific. Stuff's pretty flat. 12 hours later, there's still high pressure out in this region. Seems to be a little spike in high pressure right here, and over here is when rain started. There's not a whole lot of weird stuff to show in this 300 millibar view, other than just a little waviness. Okay, this is water vapor for December 20th. This is today, 20 to 23:30 Zulu. What we have is, yeah, there's actually quite a bit of aerosols in this flow, not a whole lot of rain. The only rain is mainly towards Northern California. I'm going to be showing you the Doppler radar soon. We're getting towards the end of the video. And I hope this video actually turns out more smooth than the previous ones because I'm trying different settings. Anyways, they don't want this thing to turn into a massive low pressure, so they're just going to spray into it and use the ionospheric heaters. See some area drying. That's a result of man-made high pressure. The storm is pretty much redeveloping towards the east. We always get screwed with these low pressure systems. Stuff always develops as it heads more towards the east. There's a low pressure out in the Gulf of Alaska, but it's not going to do too much, I don't think. Okay, this is visible. Here's another view of California. There's a mixture of both natural and aerosol clouds. It was pretty nasty looking out today. More aerosols in this jet stream flow. That's going to just keep it flat so it doesn't curl up into a massive low pressure system. Right here we have a clearing. Off to the west of it, there's another low pressure trying to form. Doubt it'll bring us any impact. In this high pressure zone, there's actually more weird features. This whole area is messed up now that I think of it. See, there's some stuff going on here, here, and over here as well. Okay, this is the relative humidity map for 850 millibars. This is December 20th, 18 Zulu. There's quite a bit of moisture up in Northern California, but as you head more towards the south, it starts getting a bit drier. Right here is very dry near Isla Guadalupe. Okay, 700 millibars, 10,000 feet. Huge amount of dry air off the coast of Oregon. Yeah, a lot of the moisture is actually getting into Northern California and central part of Oregon. As you head more towards the south, there's more dryness. Not good. Okay, this is 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. A lot of dry air up in Washington and Oregon. We need moisture up there this time of year. And over most of California, there's actually quite a bit of humidity at this level. And that explains a lot of why there's spray. They just want to suppress the rainfall. Almost every time when there's a lot of humidity, they're spraying away. Okay, 300 millibars, 30,000 feet. A lot of dry air on the northwest coast. A lot of moisture towards the interior of California. And down towards the south, there's more dryness. Once you get into Baja, to the west, there's quite a bit of moisture. Of course, there's a lot of aerosols. That's just going to help ruin the rainfall opportunity for us. Okay, this is December 20th going to the 21st. 23 to 2:30 Zulu, and here's just more aerosols over California. Nothing too much out of the ordinary. Jet stream still getting sprayed into a bit. There's going to be potential system going down. Not going to expect much. There's not a whole lot of activity that has changed within a couple hours. Over towards the Bering Sea, more low pressure. Right here's not looking so great. In the Gulf of Alaska, low pressure being suppressed. This thing's actually looking very, very strange. Like there's some interruption. Definitely the dry air is expanding, and we have a cutoff in the water vapor all throughout this region. There's stuff just disappearing for no natural reason. I mean, just look at that for a second. That's very weird. Here, this region of that dry air pocket is starting to move up to the north. That means we're not going to get any good natural low pressure systems forming out in this area for a while and go directly into California. It used to be low pressure systems formed right in this area and went into California. That's no longer the case. Okay, this is Doppler radar for California here. Whatever rain's allowed to fall is not heavy. It's not as much precipitation as you would expect. Of course, when you have the cupping inversion effect, that's going to prevent thunderstorms and prevent a lot of the red and white cells from popping up. And finally, we're going to have a rather brief overview at the NASA Worldview. Just going to mainly look at what's been going on out in the Pacific for like the last 2 days. Okay, this is a front that brought us a bit of rainfall. This one must have been taken earlier in the day over here in natural clouds, but yeah, there are a lot of aerosols laced in this front, so that explains why there was very minimal precipitation, just like a quarter of an inch that fell in my area. This whole thing is just laced. A little weird scaly pattern right here. Very weird effect here. Yeah, it's all through this thing. It's rather disgusting looking. That's no good. And aerosols are especially apparent right over the land near Santa Barbara. There's natural clouds, and then on top of it, there's some dirty looking stuff. It extends way up here. Up here in the Sierras, we have a massive natural and aerosol cloud canopy. Okay, up in Northern California, there's not a whole lot of weird stuff that's visible. You have to go into Nevada to see it very clearly. Yeah, right there. Very dirty looking aerosol clouds. Out in the Pacific, there's very bizarre openings just all around. That's where they're building in high pressure. A lot of clearing, a lot of scaly stuff. Nasty. Extremely nasty. We have aerosols up here as you head up into the jet stream. Alright, let's go and look at today. A lot of aerosols in this jet stream. And weird scaliness. Oh my gosh. That's very bizarre looking. Just look at that. Thank you, NASA, for giving me these pretty good images. I can see what kind of crime's going on. Let's look at California. Some scaly stuff, and offshore there's a lot of aerosol spray coming in from the jet stream. As you head more into California, there's a combination of both natural clouds and aerosol clouds. It's pretty dirty looking. There wasn't too much rain in this area. You have to go up way towards the north to get some sort of decent precipitation. But even then it's suppressed because of this. Not to mention the ionospheric heating that's taking place. Just looking at this makes my skin crawl. In Southern California there was a lot of aerosols today. But that's to be expected when you have moisture flow coming in to the state. Heavy spray, very, very minimal rainfall. Towards sunset it was really bad. Saw some natural clouds in combination with the aerosol clouds. Look at all the nasty stuff over the region. You even see a little X right off of Avalon. Then we have stuff going over mountains. Yeah, it's all throughout this thing. There's dirtiness. Alright, I think that's about it. There's not a whole lot left to show other than weird stuff out in the Pacific, but you're always going to see that in NASA Worldview. Thank you for watching, and please share. We must continue to expose these crimes against humanity.